This was intended on being a video about RTS games in the current Steam Next Fest. But frankly, there's just not a lot there this time around, so instead, let's talk about some of the RTSs that are coming this year, and maybe next, and see how the genre is doing at this point nearly halfway through the decade. Honestly, I think we're doing better than expected. And before we talk about what's coming, I do actually want to shout out Block Strategy, which is a game by solo developer Mark Makes Games. I know that sounds like a sponsor segment, but it's not. He sent me an email mentioning that his game was in the Next Fest, right now, with a playable demo, and that's what actually reminded me that the Next Fest was even happening, and it spurred me to make this video in the first place. Block Strategy is slated to be released in a few months, September of this year, and as mentioned, there's a demo you can try right now. It's got a lo-fi voxel-ish art style, and while it's classed as a real-time strategy game, it also takes elements from roguelikes and tower or base defense games. There's a free demo available now, and shout out to Mark for emailing me and making this whole thing happen. Alright, on to the up-and-comers then. First, Age of Mythology Retold, which recently got a release date of September 5th of 2024. So yeah, just 3 months away. Though unfortunately it has perhaps the most brazen example of the pre-order to play early trend, giving a full week of advanced access to those who pre-purchase the premium edition, which then unlocks August 28th. At least the base price is reasonable at $29.99 USD, but be under no illusions here, you're not paying more to play early, you're playing at release time. Everyone else who doesn't pre-order plays late. Despite that, Age of Mythology Retold is visually stunning and honestly it's looking great, and I hope it lands with the same impact that Age 2 and Age 3 Definitive did. We've got no reason to really think otherwise. The Age series has been on a bit of a roll for a good number of years now, so fingers crossed, but yeah, so far it's shaping up pretty nicely. We couldn't go long without mentioning Stormgate, the new RTS from ex-Blizzard developers at Frostgiant Games. They've recently announced their third and final faction, and are storming towards a Steam Early Access release date of July 31st if you put down a pre-order. Otherwise, it's hitting 2 weeks later in its free-to-play state on August 13th. So yeah, you can basically support the developers to play a couple of weeks early. And I know that sounds like what Age of Mythology is doing, but I don't really have as much of an issue with this one as I did there, because Stormgate is going to be free to play on launch, and yeah, I don't think there's a problem with supporting the developers by giving them some cash and playing a couple of weeks before everyone else. It's only fair. With their newly announced Celestial Armada faction that brings the total now to 3, the humans, demons, and now the angels I guess, it's a classic combo, and it might only be the start, if the hint on their website is to be believed. There is a ton of hype surrounding Stormgate, as expected, and while I'm not personally as excited as the majority, just because it's not my favourite style of game, I'm still looking forward to seeing what Frostgiant can pull off here, especially on the campaign and solo fronts, because that kind of gameplay doesn't usually gel with a free-to-play model, so we'll see. Personally, I couldn't care less about PvP, so I hope the game doesn't lean too hard into that aspect, and still caters to the solo and co-op players. I guess we'll know soon enough. Broken Arrow is a game that I was hoping to have played more of by now, but sadly I'm still waiting. It's perhaps the closest thing we'll ever get to a true sequel to World in Conflict, one of my favourite RTS games ever, and the sooner I can get my hands on it, the better. It's planned for a release sometime this year, and it's had quite a few betas and demos over the last wee while, so hopefully this isn't too far away. Not many updates to report on this one since the last time we talked about it, but keep your eyes peeled, as I'll do my best to be there on day one, whether that's through early access or otherwise. Battle Aces is a new real-time strategy game that was announced just last week at the 2024 PC Gaming Show. It seems to be aiming for that fast-paced action RTS feel, which kind of puts it outside of my wheelhouse already as something that I'd enjoy, but it does incorporate deck building, which is something I do enjoy, so I guess we'll wait and see. There's not a ton of information about the game out there just yet, aside from the couple of trailers, but hey, the unit designs look pretty dope, and overall, the art direction looks interesting, to say the least. It's slated for a release sometime this year, and you can sign up for a closed beta through the game's website, which is set to begin really soon, like at the end of this month. Like Stormgate, this is also going to be free to play, and yeah, I really don't quite know how to think about this one. The gameplay doesn't really seem to be my cup of tea, and free to play deck building is always a little bit scary, with the potential for monetization. Still, it looks interesting, and I'll withhold judgment until we actually get to play it. Cataclismo is a castle building RTS game that's releasing in the middle of July, and it even has a free demo that you can try right now. It's not a traditional RTS game by any means, but the concept is pretty dope and it has a really cozy vibe to it. Personally, I love anything where you can build a big castle and then see it fall down, so it has that instant interest from me. There's also a range of game modes which include a campaign, survival-based horde mode, and skirmish. Plus, this is published by Hooded Horse, who tend to know a winner when they see one, so I'm hopeful this is going to be a pretty good time. If you've tried the demo, I'd love to hear what you think, and if you'd like me to cover this one when it comes out, let me know. Sanctuary has got a lot of people excited, and for good reason. It aims to draw on the success and influence of Supreme Commander and create a true successor. A game with massive scale, strategic zoom, and lots of fighting robots. I recently did a video covering Sanctuary's first pre-alpha release, showcasing my own gameplay, as well as giving a general update on the project. And since then there's even been more news, with new scenarios being added to said pre-alpha demo that's able to be played right now for anyone if you're a high tier Patreon supporter. If you want to learn more, then I encourage you just go and watch that video I made about the game, but otherwise, keep your eyes peeled for updates about Sanctuary, as I'll be covering it when that Kickstarter page and proper release do appear on the horizon. Dust Front is a classically styled RTS with an art style quite unlike anything I've ever seen. The best amalgamation I can say is maybe it's like if you combined Lethal Company with Command & Conquer 3. Yeah, I know, it's bizarre, but it looks awesome. It's also perhaps the only game that I know to include the genre in its official title, so yeah, you do you, King. The game is planned to include grand strategy elements, but at its core it is a traditional real-time strategy game with base building, resource gathering, and varied units and factions. There's a Steam page where you can check the game out, but unfortunately there is no release date just yet, early access or otherwise. This is one I'm very excited about, however, and I will absolutely do my best to be there on day one to give this a crack. I love the art style, I love the vibe, the gameplay looks great, so yeah, this is seriously one to keep your eyes on. Industrial Annihilation is a sequel to Planetary Annihilation, created by its original developers, who have also spent their time on games like Total Annihilation and Supreme Commander. At the top here, I'll make it clear that I'm not the biggest fan of Industrial Annihilation right now, particularly because of its funding model and some previous shenanigans pulled around Planetary Annihilation and its expansion, Titans. I also just didn't really like Planetary Annihilation as a game, but I know a lot of you out there did, so I understand if you're at least cautiously excited for this game. What the state of it is right now, I'm not exactly sure. I don't know if anyone does. I know they were aiming for an early access release of Q2 of this year, so I guess we'll see what's happening soon enough. Who knows? If you want to know more about the whole thing, I've made a whole video on this one too, links below. Stronghold Unreal hasn't really had any updates since I discussed it last, but I wanted to mention it here, if even only briefly. That is a code name if you weren't aware, as there's no proper info out there about the new Stronghold, aside from the fact that A, it's real and it's being developed, and B, it's being made in the Unreal Engine, hence the code name. I'm hoping Firefly has a Stronghold Crusader Definitive Edition or something in the works as well, but that's pure speculation and not what this video is about, so I'll leave it at that for now. And I'll be sure to let you know once we hear more about anything Stronghold, hopefully not too far away. Ratten Reich is an upcoming company of heroes like that I've had my eye on for quite a while now. I even did some coverage on it a couple of years back, very early in its development. That video is quite out of date now, as there's been a lot of updates on Ratten Reich since then, namely the fact that it's dropping into Steam Early Access in the third quarter of this year, so that's some point between July and September, and if I had to guess, it's probably going to be sooner rather than later. I'm super excited to see what Metal Atlas Studio has been cooking up, as the build I played back in 2022 is looking very different to the one that they'll be dropping soon. I might do a dedicated video on this one if there's enough interest, so let me know if that's something you'd like to see. 9-Bit Armies is a game I reviewed on its launch in Steam Early Access, and I liked it quite a bit. It's a sequel to the simple but charming 8-Bit Armies, and it's again being developed by Petroglyph, creators of Empire at War, Command & Conquer Remastered, and more. It's received quite a few updates since its release, and it's on track to a 1.0 release sometime in the not so distant future. Godsworn is another RTS that I reviewed in Early Access, and also really enjoyed. It channels classics like Warcraft 3, and has a unique setting in Baltic mythology, which is something seldom seen in games. As I said, I really appreciated the time I spent with it a few months back, and I look forward to experiencing the full game once it hits 1.0, hopefully sometime this year, or maybe early next. Sins of a Solar Empire 2 is a game I'm personally very excited about. I played hours upon hours of the original and Rebellion, and I look forward to doing the same with this very long-awaited sequel. It released as early access on the Epic Store last year, and it was recently announced to finally be coming to Steam. But still in early access, mind you. There's no set release date for the 1.0 version, and personally, I don't think I'll be playing it again until that 1.0 version is out there. I made a video on its initial launch, which you can check out if you're interested, and for now, I'm just happy to let it simmer until Ironclad have cooked up to what I hope is their magnum opus, and if I can really hope, maybe my next favourite strategy game. Bar, or Beyond All Reason, is an awesome project that's been in development for quite a few years now. Like Sanctuary, Bar aims to be a successor to a robot-based large-scale RTS created by Chris Taylor, though here that game is Total Annihilation rather than Supreme Commander. Bar has been very playable for a while now, despite its early access label, and even better, it's free to download and enjoy right now through their website. A Steam release is on the horizon, but not until the developers have reached a state that they're happy with. There's information on their website that goes into detail about what that actually means, if you're interested. I called Bar my favourite RTS of 2023, and I stand by that. If you'd like to learn more, then I made a dedicated video last year about it, and it also featured heavily in the recent Total Annihilation retrospective documentary made by myself and Bad Ghosts. So check them out if you're keen, or just play the game for free right now. Yeah, there's no excuse. Alrighty, that's all I've got for today. Let me know if there's any big games that I missed in the comments and what you're excited for. Personally, I'm looking forward to spending some proper time in Broken Arrow, as well as trying to beat down the Horde modes in Beyond All Reason. There are a lot of good RTSs going right now, and if anyone tells you otherwise, they are not looking in the right places. Thanks for watching, and if you'd like to support me and what I do here, then you can do so on Patreon or through YouTube memberships. You'll join legends like Takayo, Bad Ghosts, Sean, Greyspirit 4, George, King Thickums, Pavel, Bram, Christian, Dan 4, Orion, Disrufkin, and Cameron, and my Paladins, Johnny, Marika, Age of Cause, Joe, Tank, and Empyrean. So thanks again, and I'll see you all in the next one.